In our headlines on this Monday afternoon, November 6th, here in South Korea. Israeli military authorities say Gaza City has been surrounded and the Strip has been divided into two parts as their Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, rules out yet again prospects of a ceasefire until all hostages are released. Korean regulators are putting the brakes on short selling of locally listed stocks starting today, that is Monday, until June next year, a move that they claim is necessary to curb illegal use of a trading strategy, mostly by institutional investors. Meanwhile, Korea and the US are co-hosting a space forum starting today in Seoul, with some 40 government officials and relevant experts believed to be taking part in talks aimed at boosting collaboration in space-related policies. Israel says the Gaza Strip has been divided into two separate parts, North Gaza and South Gaza. Also, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has crossed out chances of a ceasefire until all hostages are returned home. Our Ising-jae has the latest.
The Israel Defense Forces said Sunday that it had fully surrounded Gaza City and split Gaza into two. According to IDF spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, the Gaza Strip is now split into North Gaza and South Gaza, adding that there are now widespread strikes on terror infrastructure below ground and above it. Hagari called the encirclement of Gaza City a significant stage in the war between Israeli forces and Hamas militants, as it's now able to pinpoint operations deeper within Gaza. Despite international calls for a humanitarian ceasefire, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reiterated on Sunday that there will be no ceasefire until all hostages are returned first.
I want you to know that there's one thing that we won't do. There won't be a ceasefire without the return of our hostages. Take it completely out of the lexicon. We say it to our enemies and to our friends, and we'll simply carry on until we win. We don't have an alternative.
Meanwhile, Iran warned Sunday that the U.S. will be hit hard if there is no ceasefire. According to the Iranian defense minister, Tehran's message to the Americans was to immediately stop the war in Gaza and implement a ceasefire without further elaborating on the repercussions. Iran considers the U.S. to be militarily involved in the armed conflict. The White House, on the other hand, says hostage negotiations are taking place and added that fighting may be paused to ensure their safe movement. Speaking to CBS on Sunday, Deputy National Security Advisor Jonathan Feiner said negotiations are taking place quietly behind the scenes and that Washington believes there is an opportunity to release a significant number of hostages. When asked if Israel would agree to a ceasefire, Feiner added that the U.S. will work hard to make it happen. Ising-jae, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, Korea and the US are co-hosting a two-day space forum starting today, that is Monday, here in Seoul. Some 40 government officials and relevant experts are taking part in talks aimed at boosting collaboration in space-related policies on diplomacy, economy and security. During the opening ceremony, Foreign Minister Park Jin shed light on Korea's intentions to boost investments in space technology, to bolster private sector engagement and to build more related global partnerships. He also underscored Korea's commitment to a safe and sustainable space environment through its alliance with the US. Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar was recently here in Korea for summit talks as Korea and Ireland celebrate 40 years of diplomatic relations this year. Well, on the sidelines of that summit, he also spoke to our senior correspondent Oh Soo-young about the importance of joint efforts against common concerns. Do take a listen.
Ireland is keenly seeking a greater partnership with South Korea based on their values of freedom and innovation amid complex global challenges. That's according to Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar in an interview with Arirang News on Friday. Varadkar's working visit to Seoul marks the first trip by an Irish head of state in the history of their bilateral relations, which stretch back 40 years. The Irish PM highlighted the two republics' shared values, particularly under the Yoon administration, as they collaborate closely in tackling climate change, global insecurity, and threats to democracy.
Given the rapidly changing geopolitical dynamics that we're seeing, including the European Union's sort of change of approach to the Indo-Pacific, you've actually updated your Asia-Pacific strategy. So In what ways do you see opportunities and also challenges for both Ireland and South Korea?
Well, I think fundamentally the world is changing. The economic and political power is less concentrated in Europe and America and is now more multipolar. Asia being hugely significant politically and economically, much more so than would have been decades ago, but also a more dangerous world. You know, we see what's happening, for example, in the Middle East at the moment, the conflict in Ukraine, other parts of the world where there are potential flashpoints. And that's why I think countries that do very similar values need to work together, and the European Union and Korea have very similar values around free enterprise, around free trade, around democracy and human rights, and we really need to strengthen that relationship, and we're very keen as Ireland to be part of that.
Well, you actually visited the demilitarized zone yesterday, which is the border area between South and North Korea. So I'm wondering what was running through your mind at that moment, and also how you're planning to collaborate with South Korea for regional security, especially when it comes to peace on the Korean Peninsula.
Well, it was fascinating to visit. In many ways it's a misnomer, demilitarized zone, because it is of course heavily militarized and heavily fortified, and I think one of the best ways that we can work together, Ireland and Korea, is through the United Nations in particular. And even as we speak, Irish and Korean troops are serving together in South Lebanon, which is a very dangerous place at the moment, but have been there helping to keep the peace there.
Particularly as President Yoon Suk-yeol pushes for global solidarity for peace, development and climate action. Varadkar said he hopes the two republics can also work together to increase multilateral cooperation and institutions as middle power countries.
We're relatively small countries, albeit with big economies and a lot of trading influence. And for countries like ours, we'll do best in a world that is rules-based, that has institutions that function, that it's not just the really big countries that make all the decisions, or those countries with massive military economic power.
The Irish leader further highlighted new emerging industries, including renewable energy and digital technologies, as key areas of win-win partnership between the two leading IT nations.
I think one is certainly energy, and Korea is at the forefront in terms of making that green transition towards renewable energy and battery storage. Some investments by Korean companies happening in Ireland. We have very ambitious plans to increase the amount of renewable energy we produce, and nearly half of all cars now being sold in Ireland are either electric cars or hybrids, and Hyundai and Kai are among the main companies selling cars into Ireland. So I think.
Noting that he loved Korean dramas and films like Squid Game, Varadkar noted that the two countries will increase people-to-people exchanges for more collaborations in culture and innovation.
Korean culture really has grown, I think, around the world, and you know, Ireland wouldn't have been very exposed to it maybe 20 years ago, but now people really are. So it's great to see the country spreading its wings in the way it has.
Right, thank you very much for your time, Dr. Varadkar.
Thank you.
In other news, regulatory authorities here are putting the brakes on short selling of stocks starting today, that is Monday, until June next year. Our Shin Se-byuk tells us why.
Starting Monday, short selling is banned for all stocks listed on the local market until the end of the first half of 2024. Short selling is when investors trade with borrowed shares in the hope that the price will fall later, so they can buy them back at a lower price and pocket the price difference. The Financial Service Commission, in a press briefing on Sunday, cited illegal short-selling activities by global investment banks amid growing uncertainties, such as the Israel-Hamas war, as a reason.
Amid global turmoil, we discovered illegal naked short selling by global investment banks and circumstances of additional illegal activities. It's a grave situation where illegal short selling undermines fair pricing of stocks and hurts market confidence.
During the 8-month ban, the FSC will seek a fundamental improvement in related rules and systems. These include narrowing the different short-selling requirements between institutions and individual investors. The measures come amid widespread dissatisfaction among individual investors who faced losses in the recent stock market downturn. The government also plans to establish a real-time blocking system to prevent naked short selling where assets are sold prior to an agreement to borrow is made. To do so, the Commission is set to work with the National Assembly to enact related laws. It will also crack down on illegal activities carried out by global investment banks and seek stronger punishments for them. In the same briefing, FSC Governor Lee Bo-kyun said 10 global banks accounting for most of the short-selling transactions in South Korea are subject to investigations. Last week, the financial watchdog said it would form a special task force to inspect all global IBs after it exposed 2 Hong Kong-based investment banks suspected of engaging in illegal short-selling. As for when short-selling will be allowed again, the Commission said the decision will be made in consideration of improvements in conditions in June 2024. 신세벽, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, Korea's grocery prices are rising with little sign of relief in sight as they surge past general inflation. Our Lee Kyung-eun has details.
From fruits and vegetables to jam and cheese, the already high prices of food are rising even higher.
I only wait for sales. Everyone is like me, waiting for sales flyers.
According to Statistics Korea on Sunday, prices of food and beverages, excluding liquors for the period from January to October, were 5.1% higher than for the same period last year. By item, ginger was up 97%, carrots 34%, and jam, cheese, and salad dressing all above 20%. Food prices briefly cooled in the summer, but food inflation is picking up again as rising oil prices push up the cost of processed food, and the remaining impact of the extreme summer weather still squeezes the supply of agricultural products. At this rate, the yearly inflation rate for food will stay above 5% for the third consecutive year, something unseen in the past decade. Meanwhile, prices of eating out also climbed by 6.4% on year. The lowest income bracket is hit hardest, as in the latest data from 2021, food expenses took up 44% of their spending, much higher than the 30% average. Authorities see prices stabilizing in the coming months with the impact of the bad weather waning and through government efforts such as providing discounts and increasing supplies. The Agricultural Ministry is also set to run a task force to manage 7 key food items, including instant noodles, bread, snacks, coffee, sugar, milk, and ice cream. Lee Kyung-eun, Arirang News.
Some 264,000 Chinese tourists visited Korea this past September, an almost 800% on-year surge. But the Korea Tourism Organization points out the figure is about half of that witnessed in September 2019, prior to the pandemic. What's more, the organization sees a shift in travel trends that are negatively affecting revenues here, as more Chinese travelers came as budget-conscious solo travelers rather than as part of group tours. These solo travelers were also more interested in dining and touring places trending on social media than in shopping at department stores or duty-free shops. Wildfires are common this time of the year here in Korea, and in light of the prevalence of such phenomenon last year, authorities this year are seeking anti-fire strategies that place priority on prevention through enhanced monitoring. Our Eun-jin reports.
When a forest fire breaks out, a high-performance fire extinguishing vehicle is the first to be dispatched. But when the fire breaks out in an area with limited road access, a fire extinguishing helicopter is sent to the scene. Fire departments carry out training for such scenarios to prepare for the most efficient and quick response.
We hold wildfire training annually, through which related personnel can acquire sufficient experience, skills and understanding of procedures in advance.
In Korea, on average, there are around 35 wildfires in autumn, which makes up 7% of the average annual forest fires. But just last year, that figure almost doubled, with some 66 wildfires that caused damage to roughly 230,000 square meters of land. And authorities are anticipating a similar situation for this autumn. According to the Forest Ministry, the greatest contributor to these forest fires in autumn is the seasonal increase in people visiting the mountains for trail hiking. And with the end of COVID-19 restrictions, there has been an upsurge in festivals and gatherings, which adds to the risk of fire. The Korea Forest Service plans to take tailored preventative measures against the common wildfire outbreak risks. These include monitoring and controlling entry to hiking trails that are vulnerable to forest fires, as well as using artificial intelligence and advanced CCTV to crack down on activities that could cause fires.
We're seeing the risk of forest fires at its highest. We will strengthen tailored preventative measures for each cause, as well as make full efforts with advanced monitoring.
Authorities have designated the period between November 1st and December 15th as a fire caution period. During this period, the Korea Forest Service will be operating an emergency reporting system where forest fires can be reported through 119 or 112. 이은진, Arirang News.
Over in Major League Baseball, Ha-seong of the San Diego Padres has become the first South Korean to win a Gold Glove. Earlier on Sunday, Kim was granted the National League Gold Glove in the utility category, beating Mookie Betts of the Los Angeles Dodgers and Tommy Edman of the St. Louis Cardinals. The utility category was introduced last year to acknowledge players with exceptional defensive versatility. The Gold Glove winners are chosen through voting by 30 MLB managers and up to 6 coaches from each team. Before Kim, the closest a South Korean came to winning a Gold Glove was in 2012 when Chu Shin-soo was a finalist in the right field category. And BTS's Jungkook has made more history. His debut solo album Golden has become the most single-day streamed K-pop solo album on the global music streaming platform Spotify. According to Spotify on Sunday, Jungkook's first solo album, released Friday, hit nearly 40 million streams on its release day, a record for a K-pop solo artist on the first day of entering its global daily chart. The album's tracks dominated the chart with 7 and Standing Next to You leading the way, ranking first and second, respectively. The 11-track album also sold 2 million copies within 5 hours of its release, making it the best-selling K-pop solo album. K-pop's growing global popularity has led to a broad embracing of English lyrics as artists seek to reach out to a greater fan base. So what has been the response to this widespread effort? Our culture correspondent Song Yoo-jin has answers.
I'm super shy, but wait a minute while I make you mine, make you mine. A side step right left to my beat. I like the more rock with me, baby.
These songs show a growing trend within the K-pop industry, more English lyrics. A recent study found that K-pop songs that charted in the top 400 of Circle Chart, a Korean album sales tracker, in the first half of this year had more English lyrics than 5 years ago. This is mainly because more people around the world are listening to K-pop. In the past, the genre was mostly for listeners at home. But with the global success of artists like Psy, BTS, and Blackpink, K-pop now has a global fan base.
The key to popular music lies in connecting with the audience. Incorporating English lyrics can help establish that connection in America and Europe. This way, K-pop can have a broader international appeal.
This is also the reason why girl groups incorporate more English lyrics. Female K-pop stars tend to hold a more diverse global fan base than their male counterparts.
They're using English more to reach a wider audience. The share of English lyrics in girl groups like Blackpink or New Jeans, who are targeting international markets, is higher than that of IVE, focusing on the local audience.
What do fans think about this? Some welcome this change, while others raise questions about its necessity.
I think it makes it more marketable to the English speakers internationally. So it makes K-pop more known to the other countries besides Korea.
And I think most people listen to K-pop so that they can engage with Korean culture. So I think it would be nice to keep the two separate.
I don't need to always know what every word means, because I think the difference between solely Western music versus K-pop music is that you get the sense, the tone, the feeling that they're trying to evoke in the song without even having to know what the meaning of the word is.
And so with K-pop going global, the role of English lyrics is a subject of both celebration and debate among fans. 송유진, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In the US, the race for the 2024 presidential election is well underway, and a new poll released on Sunday shows that incumbent President Joe Biden is losing to former President Donald Trump in 5 of the 6 key swing states. The two are expected to be the main candidates in the next year's election. The poll conducted by the New York Times and Siena College showed Trump was ahead in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, and Pennsylvania, while Biden only led in Wisconsin. Voting results from these 6 swing states are instrumental to a candidate's win in most presidential elections. Voters in those states expressed dissatisfaction towards Biden's handling of the economy and saw his age as an issue. However, Biden campaign spokesperson Kevin Munoz stated that predictions more than a year out tend to look a little different a year later. In Nepal, search and rescue operations continue after a magnitude 5.6 earthquake collapsed houses and caused infrastructural damage in the northwest of the country on Friday. According to reports, at least 157 people died and 375 were injured in the quake that hit rural Jajarkot and West Rukum, some 500 kilometers from the capital Kathmandu. A Nepalese police spokesperson said the earthquake was the country's deadliest since the 7.8 magnitude quake in April 2015, which left 9,000 dead and over 20,000 injured. Jajarkot, the area closest to the epicenter, has a population of 190,000 scattered across hills in remote areas. Authorities have expressed concerns that the death toll may rise as the rescue operations continue. In Europe, an 18-hour-long armed hostage situation came to an end without resistance at Germany's Hamburg International Airport on Sunday local time. According to reports, a 35-year-old Turkish citizen on Saturday drove through a security fence and onto the airport's tarmac with his 4-year-old daughter in the vehicle. Authorities said the man fired a weapon twice and threw burning bottles from his car, which he had parked under a plane. A police spokesperson said the man had acted in protest over a custody dispute with his wife over the care of their daughter. Airport officials said the incident led to the cancellation of 100 flights, but work was being done to resume operations as quickly as possible. More than 50,000 runners from around the world took part on Sunday in the 52nd edition of the New York City Marathon. It is the last of the 6 World Marathon Majors events scheduled for 2023. Ethiopian Tamirad Tola beat the course record by 8 seconds. Tola, who previously won gold at the 2022 World Athletics Championships, finished a 42.195-kilometer race in 2 hours, 4 minutes and 58 seconds, breaking the record set by Geoffrey Mutai in 2011. Kenyan runner Helena Biri won the women's title with a record of 2 hours, 27 minutes and 23 seconds. Kim Si-young, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. Hope your morning went smoothly despite that storm-force weather. Downpours with strong winds lashed down on most parts of the country earlier in the day. The weather conditions have improved compared to the earlier hours in most places, except in central parts of the country where on and off showers will continue through tomorrow. About the wind, strong wind alerts are in place across Korea, and it's going to be quite windy through tomorrow. Afternoon highs could be lower than today's morning temperatures in Seoul, topping out at 16 degrees Celsius, but certain parts of the country will see highs in the 20s. Now, today's rain is calling wintry weather to the country. After skies clear, we're going to notice much colder air creeping into the country. And we are waking up to a low of just 3 degrees in Seoul tomorrow, nearly 15 degrees lower than the same time today, with a high of just 10 degrees in the capital. Then, a week from today, we're expecting sub-zero morning temperatures. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
Well, those are the headlines at this hour. Thank you for watching, and do stay with us for our panel session coming up next.